growing luminous. On the mystic path, we create our own light. And at first, we struggle blind and baffled, seeing nothing, hearing nothing, unable to think, unable to imagine. We seem deserted by dream, vision, or inspiration, and our meditation barren altogether. But let us persist through weeks or months, and sooner or later, that stupor disappears. Our faculties readjust themselves and do the work we will them to do. Never did they do their work so well. The dark caverns of the brain began to grow luminous. We are creating our own light. George William Russell.
Oh, don't you love that? We are creating our own light, which I think we really are doing this year with the year's theme of Light on the Path for all of Still and Moving Center. And we have just moved out of the week of the therapy of the Buddha, in honor of Buddha Purnima. And this week's theme seems a very good one also to take up from the Buddhist perspective. And that theme is pride to humility. And I think that's so apt in today's world where really there's so much of a emphasis on kind of boosting up and pumping up the ego self, that to take it from a different perspective of pride to humility, and what could that mean without it being at all demeaning to a human being. So we have that to look forward to. See if how Skylar is going to help us with that. Skylar is one of our presenters at Still and Moving Center, who has appeared on stage for us many times and has graced us as well with several presentations at Gems from the Wisdom Traditions. She has been running from Still and Moving Center a Buddhist meditation group, and she is from the time of being a very young adult a steady follower of the practices of Plum Village and Thich Nhat Hanh. So Skylar, we'd love to hear from you on this topic of pride to humility.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Renee. My name is Skylar. My Dharma name, which is a name that is given in this lineage after taking the 5 mindfulness trainings, is Dharma Adornment of the Heart. And at first, when I got this name, Dharma Adornment, I felt like, oh, so showy. Like, does this really fit me? But hopefully after I talk a little bit about the tradition, some of the practices in my own journey, you can be the judge of that. So I have a presentation. Am I co-host so I can share?
We can make you such.
Renee, I think it has to be you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I got it. So let's see. I should be able to share my screen. All right. Can you see my keynote?
Yes.
Perfect.
And see the whole thing. There it goes.
Mm-hmm. So thank you, Renee. Dear friends, dear Gems from the Wisdom Traditions Sangha, dear Te, which is dear teacher. I'm going to present today on the theme of pride to humility, using the Plum Village Traditions specific practice of touching the earth. And I do love to make things interactive. So I will have some options for you to participate in some practices. And as of everything, you are welcome to participate as you will, as you're able, or just let it wash over you. And I am on my lanai, so sometimes we get traffic or dogs barking, and that can be a mindfulness bell. So whenever there's anything loud, we can just take a pause and take a breath. In fact, I'd like to start by inviting the bell 3 times. And when we invite the bell, it is an invitation not only for the sound, but for our hearts to go along with the sound and to come back to our true selves for 3 mindful breaths. Were you able to hear the bell? A little bit. Let's try one more time.
Make sure you have original sound for musicians on.
Let's see. Share device audio. I think I do have that on.
Okay, it's gonna be in the right upper corner.
Listen, listen. I send my heart forward with the sound of the bell. To whatever degree you could hear the sound of the bell. So I'd like to begin with a poem. And this is a practice poem written by Thich Nhat Hanh, who's the founder of Plum Village and the whole tradition, which is a Vietnamese Zen Buddhism tradition. And this practice is about letting the words be mindfulness words. So we might breathe in, breathe out, connect to our seat, connect to our breath as an anchor, as a bridge to bring mind and body back together as we listen deeply. So this one is called Let the Buddha Breathe. I don't need to breathe. Let the Buddha breathe. Let the Buddha sit. I don't need to breathe. I don't need to sit. The Buddha is breathing. I enjoy the breathing. The Buddha is sitting. I enjoy the sitting. The Buddha is breathing. I am the breathing. The Buddha is sitting. I am the sitting. There's only breathing. There's only sitting. There's no one breathing. There's no one sitting. Joy in the breathing. Peace in the sitting. Joy is the sitting. Peace is the breathing. Letting that mindfulness poem wash over me, some things that come up. At first, it's a surrendering. Let the Buddha breathe. I don't need to breathe. And in this case, for me at least, I don't see the Buddha as, the sort of statue, the happy big bellied Buddha, or even the more somber Siddhartha Gautama Buddha. But for me, the Buddha is that source, that empty energy from which form arises. And I particularly enjoy this poem. And we did sit this poem in our mindful sitting last week on Wednesday, because it reminds us about not that the I does not exist, but the I isn't the end of the story. The borders between me and everything else, Buddhism will keep reminding me, are porous. And in the historical dimension, it's very useful to have a self. It's very useful to define what is Skylar and what is not Skylar. In the ultimate dimension, things are not so clear. And things can become different sized depending on what truth we're looking at. And that right sizedness is something that through this practice, I was able to learn and has greatly assisted me in my life. But before I jump into that, I want to share some background. I think that many people here know about Plum Village, but I'll just give a very quick overview if anybody does not. So Plum Village is a monastery in the south of France. It's a practice center as well as a community, meaning that monastics live there in 3 hamlets. And it's also a practice center, meaning that lay practitioners, they do live there, as well as come to practice in retreats. And currently there are many Plum Village practice centers throughout the world, in Asia, Australia, Europe, and also in the US. Not yet in Hawaii, but we do have the Bodhi Tree Dharma Center and the Honolulu Mindfulness Community, which I'm a part of. And of course, now we have our Still and Moving Center community, where we are hosting our Wake Up, which is the practitioners who are 18 to 35-ish, first third of lifers, can come and practice every day, sitting, walking, and sharing from the heart. And that's what I learned to do when I first came to Plum Village in 2009. But really, this is where it started in 1982, when Thich Nhat Hanh was actually forced to create a practice center in the south of France, actually quite near Bordeaux, because of being exiled from his home country of Vietnam for his work in the peace efforts. And you'll see some pictures of walking meditation, these beautiful pine trees. There's a large bell tower. And then on the far right, the practice center, the main practice hall, which is where I spent a lot of time meditating. All very beautiful memories for me. But who is Thich Nhat Hanh? Because many people, when they think of Plum Village, even though it is, of course, a community, he certainly did not do it alone, but Thich Nhat Hanh is the person who founded this specific tradition. The Buddhist tradition, of course, is deep and lovely. It is not founded by Thich Nhat Hanh, and even what we call Plum Village tradition, which was founded by Thich Nhat Hanh, has a very deep history in the Zen lineage, which he joined at 16 in Vietnam. He was born during a period of unrest with the French and colonial powers kind of vying for their interests in his country. And I remember he was first inspired by a picture of the Buddha, an illustration actually of the Buddha in a magazine. And he saw that picture and he saw this peaceful person sitting with a little smile on his face. And he wanted that peace because around him there was not very much peace. And so he became a novice monk at 16. And as he grew deeper in the practice, he became very passionate about revitalizing Buddhism and creating an engaged practice that would serve the people of today and would serve the situation, which was very tenuous in Vietnam at the time. And it was met with some degree of pushback, but a lot of welcomeness in the Buddhist community in Vietnam, because the Buddhist community had become very traditional and somewhat dogmatic at that time. It was very set in its ways from thousands of years, but he was very passionate about using the practices to create that peace in the world, not cloistering or only practicing for oneself. And so during the American-Vietnam War, he was extremely active. He created a social work school, and he and his monks and nuns were there to go into villages, care for people who were affected by the war. And he was a peace activist. And unfortunately, that was one of the most dangerous things to be during the Vietnam War, the American War, because really, fundamentally, it was a civil war, though America got involved, of North and South. And it was not okay to not choose a side. There was a strong identification on being for the North or the South. And so when you refuse to take that side, when you refuse to have that binary us versus them thinking, that was when things got especially dicey. And so that plus the religious persecution of all religions, but Buddhism in particular, during that time meant it was a very dangerous time for him. And so he traveled to the West to take a teaching fellowship at, I believe, Cornell or Stanford, one of the Ivy League universities in the US, and also advocate for peace, which is where he met Dr. Martin Luther King, who nominated him for the Peace Prize, actually. And they worked very closely side by side. He never meant to stay in the West. He planned to go and advocate and was very helpful in many peace accords during that time in France. But when he tried to go back to Vietnam, because of the following that he had and because he refused to choose sides, they would not let him back in the country. And that was a very difficult time for him. But because he has a strong practice, he was able to walk and breathe through it and move forward. And he chose to be free where he was and founded Plum Village in the early 80s. And he did transition or pass away from this earth in 2022. But I'm happy to say that the continuation of the Plum Village movement, this engaged Buddhism, that is, I find, very accessible. Though I'm not born Buddhist, I was born Jewish. I found it very accessible, and it spoke to something that I really needed and continue to need, which is that peace. And so even though he is no longer with us, the continuation of what he was trying to do with engaging people through Buddhism and creating that right view that would allow people to continue to survive and thrive, even in a fast-changing world, is still alive and well, including at Plum Village, including at all the monastic centers, and also in all of our practices, like Still and Moving Center. But so after that overview, you might ask why I was interested in that. And what exactly happened there that made it so interesting to an 18-year-old that, you know, it would stick. So I can tell you a little bit about how I came to the practice and my own story, my own hero arc from pride to humility. So that picture over there on the right is a picture that was taken of me during the summer retreat of 2009. In Plum Village, the lower hamlet. And this was right after something called a be-in, which is basically a talent show where people can just do all sorts of different things and skits and share with the whole community. And after we were finished with our talent show, which, you know, I could see definitely happening at, you know, Barefoot Ballroom. It was very much of that vibe. We had our lotuses and we mindfully walked through the lotus pond and put it in, or around the lotus pond, and put our candles in. And as you can see in that picture, I think it shines through, but I felt this incredible peace at that time. You know, I felt for the first time that I had found that right size, that I was not so separate, that I was able to be in myself without discomfort. And you know, that continues to be a process, especially for teenagers in these days and age, but perhaps for all people of all time, that is a struggle. And I would not have come to Plum Village if it wasn't for going to a crunchy, munchy liberal arts college in the Midwest called Beloit College, where we had a spiritual life counselor who would do these interfaith like weekend retreats, which I went on as a freshman. I found meditation, and I thought that maybe it would have some answers for me about why it was so hard for me to have self-esteem, why it was hard for me to be alone. It didn't, but it opened many interesting questions for me. And so I couldn't really put it down. I started having this reoccurring dream of being in this yellow tent. I found a picture. This is not an actual picture of my yellow tent, but very similar. A yellow tent in the morning, light streaming through, and this feeling of complete contentment in my body, complete peace, which I had not experienced. But I Googled meditation retreat 2009, and I found Plum Village. It was the second hit, and something told me I needed to go. So I went, and I truly believe it saved my life. The way I was going, the way I was living my life was not sustainable. And so it really did allow me to taste that peace, which has been enough to, even as, you know, a young adult, keep this practice alive in me. So for that, I'm very, very grateful. And so you might ask, you know, okay, what's got an 18-year-old so stuck? And it could be many things, I'm sure. But for me, I had some very specific wrong views, which had me at the wrong size for my true self, the wrong size to feel like I fit in the world. And the wrong views that I had specifically, people in power over me will try to hurt me because I had a very difficult childhood with a lot of abuse. So I decided very early that, you know, people who are in power are not safe. People who love me will not protect me. So I could not rely on others or trust others. Specifically, it's my fault if something bad happens to me. Or really, I should have added, it's my fault if something bad happens to other people either. Basically, it's my fault. And I am alone in this world. And it's funny because we talked a little bit about pride in the beginning and in the introduction from Renée. And we often think of pride as being really big, right? And that being a problem. This kind of a complex of superiority. And that is a problem, you know, but also inferiority complex can be very, very prideful. And so I had a pretty bad inferiority complex as a child because I blamed myself for everything. And I thought, oh, you know, it's because I'm bad, blah, 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 which is a very common strategy for children to take. But it's also an extremely egotistical way of seeing things, you know, that everything revolved around me. And I somehow had the ability to, through my actions, just completely affect the world with nobody else having any input, you know. That was how I believed. And of course, it caused me to suffer a lot because bad things did happen. And if it was all resting on my shoulders, what does that mean about me? So even though if somebody looked at me, or like, you know, if I went to therapy, people would say, the problem is low self-esteem or feeling too small. That's true. I did have this idea of me as very small, but also much too big. Much too big for one person. And so these wrong views and wrong size caused me to suffer. Kind of like Alice in Wonderland when she takes the eat me, drink me, you know, constantly big in my head and feeling like I'm going to be crushed, you know. I didn't have words for it at the time, but through the practice, I was able to understand that's what was going on. And so what did I get at Plum Village that helped me get out of that wrong view? It was a couple things, but we can start with the Four Noble Truths. You probably have heard of these before. One being the truth of suffering, two being the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, that the end of suffering is possible, and the truth of the path leading to the end of suffering, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. But I was thinking, actually, as I was making this presentation, why is it called noble? These seem like really inconvenient truths. Suffering, very inconvenient. I think everyone here could agree that if we could just do away with suffering without any consequences, that would be great. Fairly universal. But doing some research, and this really resonates with me. I think the reason why it is called the Four Noble Truths is that everything contains everything. Within suffering contains the seeds of the end of suffering. Without suffering, there could be no end of suffering. And that is why it's noble. Kind of like we need that suffering, we need the pain that turns to suffering in order to find that right size, to correct those wrong views. And we have Buddhism as guidance for that, but we also have, I would say, all of the deep spiritual faiths that allow us to take a look at the true nature of reality, and take a look beyond the surface level of what is me, what is not me, what I enjoy, what I dislike, to go deeper into that. And I think that is quite noble, even though it's inconvenient and uncomfortable, it is also liberating. They both are, they inter-are. And so the only of the 8 that I'm going to talk about today is right view. And not just because right view is considered the first. Yeah, right view is part of the wheel, that Dharma wheel in the bottom. And really those 8 inter-are, they're interdependent. But I chose right view because right view allowed me to find that right sizedness. Because right view suggests that we see the roots of what truly is wholesome and unwholesome in our lives, in the world. And if you've ever seen that diagram of a tree in a forest, you have that trunk, the branches, all of that, all these different pieces that can be named and have little arrows to them. And then you have underneath the ground, you have the roots, and the roots are all intermingling. Now when you look at the roots, it's quite hard to tell where that tree ends and the other tree begins. And that speaks to the truth that maybe we aren't individuals solely, an island unto ourselves. It hints up. Renee, are you raising your hand?
I am. I'm thinking with that reference to the earth, maybe going toward the touching the earth practice now would be a good idea time-wise.
Okay. Ooh, time flies.
Yes.
Yeah, I do want to, because it might be easier to understand if we talk about that non-separate arising. Because in the Buddhist tradition, we don't see the earth as separate from us. Basically, like everything reflects everything else. So instead of superiority, inferiority, or equality complex, we can take a look at that and lovingly ask, are you sure? And that can help us find that freedom from the comparing that often does cause suffering. And so how this connects to the touching the earth practice. The picture I chose here was a leaf. And I often feel a little bit like a leaf. A leaf can be separate, a leaf can fall and then die. And if we just look at the leaf, we think, okay, the leaf is a very short span of life. It's alone, it can detach from the branch and then it's done. But if we can zoom out in our view, we can look a little bit deeper and we can see what a leaf is, which is an integral part of this whole system. So does the leaf really die when it falls to the ground or it withers? Can we consider the leaf separate from the tree or the seed? That sort of are you sureness is what we try to cultivate. And we also cultivate this coming back to the source. Because what is I, it has a tendency to shift. You know, I'm sure everybody has had their self-concept shift over time. I won't go too much into this, but it's like who I am can't be separated from all of these different things. And so if that's true, maybe it's not all on my shoulders. Maybe there is no comparison. Oops. How are we doing on time, Renee? I can't hear you, you're muted.
We're about 11 minutes past.
Okay. So the touching the earth prostration practice, very quickly. It's a practice of full prostration, touching the earth, literally, our forehead to the earth, hands up. And when I was younger, when I first did this, I was kind of like, why are we doing this? This is kind of demeaning, you know, touching my forehead to the ground, it's dirty. But it was explained, you know, why and to whom are we bowing? And then when we bow to Mother Earth is bowing to me. You know, I'm not bowing to someone, I'm bowing to myself. And it's a surrender. I'm reading a book given by Dan called You Don't Look Buddhist. It's a book by Sylvia Boorstein, who is a Jewish Buddhist. And it talks a little bit about surrender. And it says, I've discovered there are only two modes of the heart. We can struggle or we can surrender. Surrender is a frightening word for some people because it might be interpreted as passivity or timidity. Surrender means wisely accommodating ourselves to what is beyond our control. Getting old, getting sick, dying, losing what is dear to us. What the Buddha taught as the first noble truth of life's unsatisfactoriness is beyond our control. I can either be frightened of life and mad at life or not. I can be disappointed and still not mad. I can stop and take refuge. Not to something outside of myself, but the elements of the earth inside me, the elements of that Buddha, that enlightened energy inside of me. And how we do this, we remember our right-sizedness. And when I was able to bow for the first time, it was the first time I realized that I didn't have to be really big, and I certainly didn't have to be really small. I can take my place as that sometimes different sized, but always whole being, that small part that encompasses everything else. And then I'll finish with one more poem. And this is by Sister Changduk. The mind is painting a picture. The mind is painting a picture. The mind is painting a picture of sunshine and showers. The mind is painting a picture of days and hours. The mind is painting. The mind is enjoying. The mind is painting a picture of living and dying. The mind is painting a picture of laughing and crying. The mind is painting. The mind is enjoying. And all is here in this moment. a fleeting lifetime encapsulating thousands and thousands of ages. We touch the earth, we reach the sky. Okay. Thank you all for listening.
That was a really wonderful approach, Skylar, to go from the idea of right-sizedness. So we avoid this, I think, dichotomy between being ashamed of our pride or proud of our humility. Yeah, it's striking just the right balance seems very Buddhist to me and a good way to avoid suffering. So we open the floor now for others who might have some thoughts on this idea, pride to humility, or the idea of touching the earth as a way of possibly reminding ourselves of our right-sizedness or our own stance in relationship to the greater universe. Michael.
I'll jump in. I'd first like to thank Skylar for her presentation and for the work she does. It's wonderful work. Thank you for that. It's so refreshing to hear someone talking about humility. In our American culture, that's like the last thing you would ever hear, because it's all about me and what I can get and how you've got to look at me. You know, making yourself humble and small, that's not a very American thing to do. So thank you for a little reminder.
Wonderful. Bob?
I must always look like I have something to say. I agree with Michael. It was a very wonderful talk, and I really focused on a couple things. One was the bowing, rai is what we call it in my tradition, but the deep bowing. And I was reminded not only of touching your forehead to the earth, which is, of course, great humility, but also lifting the arms up. And in our tradition, we say you're doing two things when you do that. One is you're taking all of your ill-fitted behavior, your greed, hatred, anger, and tossing it over your shoulder. So you're getting rid of all that. And then the other way I've heard of it is that you're lifting the feet of the Buddha. In the early depictions of Buddha, it was only his feet walking the path, his footprints. It wasn't entirely him. So lifting the feet of the Buddha gives you great hope that things are working well. And the other thing, when you first gave the poems at the beginning that were sort of gathas of breathing, one that's always stuck out for me, and it's a standalone gatha, but it says, breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Breathing in, I am aware that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I am aware that I am breathing out. And to me, that's a wonderful practice. Thich Nhat Hanh, I haven't practiced ever in his tradition, but he was one of the founding members of what is called the Buddhist Peace Fellowship, along with Nelson Foster and Aiken Roshi from my tradition, and Sulak Sivaretsky and the Dalai Lama. So that, what do you do with the practice part? He's a wonderful voice for that. And of course, he has all those wonderful books. So anyway, those are some thoughts that I had.
Thank you. Marianne, did I miss your hand? I think I kind of saw it going up.
No, but thank you, Skylar. And one of the things that that struck me is what your honesty and um, in a way I would have seen some of your activities as smaller, where you were trying to fix people and help people so dearly, and yet you called it as much more selfish. And so it was a really intriguing discourse in that. Now I would like to go back and reflect on that in my life, where I feel that you really found humility. And I'm not sure how you did it, but it really was expressed by that journey that you shared with us. And yet the picture that you showed with a very large sense of self, it seemed like you were putting other people first. So again, it's just really compelling to give me some journaling space about that. So thank you for that. It was powerful.
Yeah, I've never thought of humility, excuse me, inferiority, like an inferiority complex, as actually being a form of egotism. So it's a very, very interesting correlation to make. Oh, I'm the worst in the world. The very worst.
Yeah, the best or the worst, it's all equally predicated on these
Huge.
views. Yeah. And really, when I was a kid, even though, I was trying to help, you might look externally and think, oh, this person is getting so small. But I thought it was all up to me. It's like I'm some sort of all powerful, I myself can hold up the world like Atlas, like a 7-year-old. And of course, it's not going to work. So now when I do things, it's much easier for me to do things, much bigger things that I tried to do then, simply because I'm not trying to do it as me, this one individual in a vacuum. I can draw on my everything self, that capital S self that is from source, what I would think is a truer self. And then it becomes less scary for me. And one thing that they say in our tradition, when we do the full prostration, the one who bows and the one who is bowed to are not separate.
Thank you. Dan, nice to see you again, Dan.
Nice to see you guys. Can you hear me?
We can.
Cool. Thank you, Skylar. This was a nice little surprise. Shabbat surprise. Can I read a quote from this book by the Pope, Francis?
Of course.
Called We Are in Debt. Long before we learned how to think, we were thought about. We were loved before we learned how to love. We were desired much before our hearts conceived of desire. If we look at life in this way, the words thank you become the driving force of our days. And yet how often we forget to say thank you.
Very beautiful. And thank you for pulling him in, since we just said goodbye to him so recently. It's lovely to have one of his poems. I'm Francis that just passed, right?
Yeah.
Very
I first heard the term right size actually from I don't know if anyone's familiar with Father Greg Boyle. He's a Catholic Jesuit peace worker in the gang world in LA. And he talks about that right size, and that I think for a long time I was obsessed with this idea that the environment is getting messed up by humans, and I felt a lot of guilt and also personal kind of responsibility to kind of, like you said, Skylar, like hold up the world or save the world or something like that. And I think like Bob, you shared like all the the culture of putting, people on the cover of Time magazine or something like that. It kind of promotes that way of thinking, that there's like this hero that can kind of, we all need to be awesome. And I think, I was judging myself. And I think that's that wrong view of thinking, like oscillating between I need to be really big and I'm so inferior. Whereas like the right view is more like I'm connected to all, and I'm not separate. And I really appreciated this talk. And also we actually did the Touching the Earth. Skylar led that on Wednesday, and this past Wednesday, and it was a very profound practice for me. And I actually they're available. I don't know if Skylar, you want to post the link, but Skylar sent me the link. It's like a pretty long meditation. I don't know if there's like an audio recording, but I did that just on the beach and did the 3 prostrations and read them. And it's such a profound way of thinking, because I think I struggle with thinking in terms of us versus them. And this is kind of like almost like an antidote to that. It's like seeing everyone as like a child of the earth, and we're all kind of, and connecting to the mother, to the great mother, like physically, and really getting in tune with that kind of right view. So I think the Pope, to bring it back to him, he says, seek out unity. 3 pieces of advice from the Holy Spirit for a good life. Number 1, live in the present. Number 2, seek out unity. The last one is put God before self. But I think seek out unity. That's it's a good way of seeking out unity, is this touching the earth practice. So I find it to be, I'm going to keep doing it. So thank you, Skylar, for that introduction to it.
Thank you so much, Dan. That was wonderful. Let's see. I don't know if I'm calling on Deshen or Jade, whichever it is.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Loved hearing. Thank you, Renee and Skylar. It was a really wonderful talk. I really appreciated hearing about your journey at Palm Village and also on the right size. And gosh, I could listen all afternoon to this. I wanted to listen to your whole presentation. I really focused on a few things. Like Bob, the poem at the beginning was really beautiful. Let Buddha breathe. I don't need to breathe. And as you were reading the poem, I was just sitting here listening, and the I dissolves in that poem is guiding, kind of like water guiding you to the I dissolving. And I just really love that. And I had an experience too where years ago, a feeling of just immense peace just came into my life. And then I realized that it was always there. And through Taoism, Qigong, and Buddhism, it really helped me deepen that. And I was reading as you were speaking, I was like, things always come at the right time. So I was rereading the Dhammapada last night, and I want to share this quick phrase from there. Is the Buddha says in his final days before he leaves the physical body, he says, "You must know that I will never leave you. How can I go anywhere? This body is not me. I'm unlimited by the body, unlimited by the mind. A Buddha is infinite and measureless, like the vast ocean or the canopy of sky. I am peace. I am Buddha. I live in the Dharma I have given you, which is closer to you than your own heart. And the Dharma will never die." And of course, the last words from Buddha is to strive earnestly to fulfill that Dharma. So I just wanted to share that. And I just think it ties so beautifully to what you, Skylar, Renee, and Bob shared. Thank you.
I just had one small thing from my side. I think one of the things that spoke to me is, and this is something I practice pretty much on daily basis and remind people around me as well, that whenever something good happens to you, it's not you. Whenever something bad happens, that's also not you. Not the doer. You are just the witness. And if only we can allow ourselves to become a better vessel for allowing this energy to flow through us effortlessly. I think that kind of helps me specifically to help transferring from the pride to humility. And one of the practices that I have been doing from this last 6 months is doing inversion, which is headstands, which is along the lines of touching your head onto the ground and lifting your legs up in the air. And it, for me, it is a way of allowing me to see from a lens which you would typically not look from, so that you have a lens of viewing things from a wholeness. You know, the moments you think, oh yeah, I'm the doer, it's happening all because of me. I'm like, okay, just turn around and you will see the view around. And that just keeps your humility and pride both in balance and in harmony. And it's important to have both aspects in harmony, because one gets an imbalance, you are out of balance in some ways. So it's a good way to check whether you are in harmony or not. That's about it.
Flip your worldview upside down. Perfect. Thank you so much. You know what, Kathy, I've seen you, your eyes light up so many times. Do you want to have a chance to share something?
Thank you, Renee. And thank you, Skylar. You do live up to your name. And ditto about the inferiority and egotistical, because that was enlightening to me, and brought me down from that. All me. But I'm a late bloomer, and just starting on this spiritual search. And so the sitting and the meditation is a challenge. So I really enjoyed the poem at the start also. And what I highlighted from the poem is the ending. Joy in the breathing, peace in the sitting, joy is the sitting. That will help me guide me to ease me to the meditation. Thank you, Skylar and Renee.
Ronnie, can we give you a chance to chime in?
Oh, I just really enjoy the presentation. I kind of had the same kind of like aha moment about, the correlation between, pride and low self-esteem and everything that she mentioned, feeling inferior. So that was very interesting. And I'm very inspired to go explore Plum Village and learn and immerse myself in the whole meditative, mindful place. It sounds so beautiful and interesting. And yeah, I just really love these conversations and hearing each one of you. I learn every week. I learn something new here. It's amazing. I've taken the approach lately to just listen more. I notice that I always want to like jump and talk and express my thought, but lately I just been a little more reflecting, trying to soak everything in. So thank you.
Does that feel more right-sized to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Just don't disappear altogether, right? Bob?
I just wanted to say there's a wonderful saying at the Buddha's enlightenment. He was enlightened and he reached down and touched the earth and pointed up to the sky and said, east, west, north, south, I alone am holy. And that just seems like a huge ego. I alone am holy. But he meant, without any separation, I alone am everything. It's all me. because I am connected to everything. And I found that very rewarding to think of that sense of I alone connected to all beings with no separation. Um, I remember there's a poem by E. E. Cummings, and it consists of the word loneliness and a parenthetical. And he separates words. So the L is the first line, O-N-E is the second line, L is the third line, and the fourth line is enus, loneliness. And then in between is the parentheses, a leaf falls. And in the West, at least, when we see a lowercase l, it refers to the letter 1. So 1, O-N-E, 1, L again, 1. So 1 to 1 to 1-eness, a leaf falls. I was just reminded of the leaf that Skylar pointed out was
Yeah.
her life is beautiful. And
Mm.
yeah, loneliness and being alone and being one are also intimate in Buddhism, that there is absolutely no duality or separation between us. And so right and wrong, all the things that Skylar were talking about are part of that breath, that oneness, if we can get to that.
Mm. Exactly.
I wanted to share, well, thank you everybody for sharing. Really appreciate all your words. If we had more time, I would have loved to practice this I mean, that's the nice thing about Buddhism, and especially engaged Buddhism. It's like, don't take my word for it. Please try it and see how it works in your life. And yeah, the idea that form is emptiness and emptiness is form, that like non-binariness of reality from the Lotus Sutras is hard to wrap our heads around in the West, I think, but and it can be interpreted as very like nihilistic, like, oh, everything's empty, nothing matters. But it is kind of like the earth. There's a lot of pregnant space, and from that pregnant nothing, everything comes forth. And also most of our atoms are empty space, and we go back to not necessarily manifesting like this form, like this matter, but then we might manifest in other ways, and our actions certainly will echo and continue in everyone and everything else. So it's a lot to think about, but it's also incredibly comforting, I think, for me, and also reminds me of like the inherent me-ness in you-ness in me, and that holiness in all of us, which I think is a much, whether it's pride or humility or a little both or neither, it's an easier way to go through life. And really, yeah, I've always been more concerned about how to live this moment than like what happened or what's going to happen, and that helps me to live in this moment, at least.
Thank you so much. I'm going to tell you about the next couple of weeks, and then ask someone if they'd like to give a vote of thanks to our presenter for today, Skylar Riella. And okay, Deshen, you're on. Next week, we are going to take up the topic of noetic ethics. And so this is, I think, the second in a number of topics that start with this word noetic, which has to do with this quality of the light of the mind that allows us to have direct knowingness, direct knowing. This might be one of many, many ways of putting it, all of which have been helped by my studying of the words of Marianne's brother, who's really inspired me to leave this word into our Still Moving Center almanac. So it's going to be noetic ethics. And we have okay. Then the next week, Bob, I'm not looking at my chart, but I think it's you speaking to us on karma and choice. Yes. Which tradition are you going to speak to us from for that one?
I was thinking of doing it from the Buddhist, but the more I thought about it, I thought I would just talk about karma in general. where it comes from and how it relates to so many traditions, Buddhism, Hinduism, and even Christianity, when we say things like, as you sow, so shall you reap. That's a nutshell definition of karma. So I'd like to just talk about karma in general. I'll probably be looking at a tradition, actually Adela's tradition, called Radha Swami, because they combine Sikhism and Hinduism and yoga. And so I thought that would be an interesting way to look at just karma in general, with a little bit of reference to rebirth, since they're tied together.
Okay, well, sounds wonderful. Okay, so let's have Dishen, you round us out, if you would, please, with a vote of thanks.
Yes, absolutely. And mahalo, Skylar, for sharing your journey. And one thing I would love to say that the piece really emanated from your voice. And the journey of unbecoming, unlearning, it's not easy. And that is a really strong and courageous things to do for our own self and becoming a peace warrior. So I'm grateful for having this opportunity to learn from you and from your journey, and allowing us to feel this peace, and also transcending from pride to humility in this moment. Mahalo.
Yes. I would like to add just a little extra gratitude to Skylar. For those of you who may have over the last year or so been able to go back and look at videos of our GEMS meetings, perhaps if you missed one, Skylar is the one who's been converting our videos into something that goes up onto YouTube. So it's on the Still Moving Center channel on YouTube that you can find those things. And thanks to Skylar for doing that. Ah, wonderful, wonderful. Kathy, could you stay on for a moment when folks go? All right, thanks. Thank you, everyone. And Skylar, really big heart thanks to that. I don't know whether it's possible for you to like share that presentation with people if you have their email addresses. You could share it with them or something like that.
Maybe I could share with Sharone or info at, and then you guys could pass it along if people are interested.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very lovely.
Thank you so much. And of course, I do want to just go out and invite people who do feel self-identify in their first third of life. However optimistic you might define that as. That, yeah, our group is very fun. It's free, and we meet in the Sun and Moon room, the non-binary Sun and Moon room, Wednesdays, 6:30 to 8.
So
Okay.
for those of us in the last third of life.
That's the Tuesday group.
Good.
Yeah, Bodhi Tree Dharma Center from 6:30 to 8 is the all ages, but the average age is definitely in the latter third.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Aloha. Thank you. Kathy, I have a question for you. Have you read Anne Frank's autobiography?
No, I have not.
Okay.
You recommend it?
I do recommend it. I was thinking, if you're one of the people who has read it, I'm looking for somebody who's read it to give us our presentation next week. Well, it's a small book, but I don't know whether you would have time to read it between now and then.
No, I don't. So I'm very tied up.
Yeah.
Gee, I thank you, Renee.
Yeah, of course. I think it would be wonderful for you to be a presenter.
Oh, I don't do those things.
Oh no, we all can do them. The place that really inspired me to open Still and Moving Center, and particularly these gems from the wisdom traditions, conversation circles, is called the Institute of World Culture in Santa Barbara. And it's always devoted to lifelong learning. So it's has varying sizes, you know, different numbers of people at different times, but sometimes it's rather small and they still have a very big program that they cover. And so sometimes, like if somebody has been a long-term artist, they might present on an artist. Let's say they're gonna, you know, talk about Van Gogh, but other times nobody has studied whatever it is the topic is. And so somebody just volunteers, okay, I'll go study that thing and we'll talk about it. So that is really my inspiration for this group, is that, you know, all of us have our interior wisdom. Anne Frank, you know, she was a Jewish girl during the Holocaust in hiding. And she has this very pithy, super brave biography. And
When we visited there, I was with two other friends and I wanted to visit her house, that house they lived in, but my friends wanted to do something else. So I do regret that, you know, not going on my own to see it.
But you also admire her.
Oh, yes, yes. I love the movie. That, you know,
I haven't seen the movie.
it's an old movie.
Ah,
It's black and white, of course, you know.
right.
Yeah, but it was quite inspiring. At the end, it shows her looking out the window with a big smile on her face. I think just as they were going to be captured.
Yeah. Yeah, she has so many quotes that I've been able to find and use a number of them in our almanacs. Just, it's such a positive outlook on the world and on human nature. And gosh, she's just a light
At such a young age.
at such a young age.
Wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
But thank you so much, Renee, for this program. It's a blessing. I never heard of the school that you went to in Santa Barbara, you know, and what that's all about.
Oh, it's just a nonprofit organization, the Institute of World Culture. And it was founded on July 4th, 1976, with the Declaration of Interdependence. Whereas the Declaration of Independence was July 4th, 1776.
Got it.
So in our almanac on July 4th, we have Interdependence Day.
I need to get that almanac.
Oh yeah, I thought we were all out of them, but somebody must have found a box, and so now we have plenty at the studio. So yeah, you can. So that's good.
And I can order it to have it mailed to me too, I think so.
You could do that too. Do you ever get into the studio?
No, I haven't, because I haven't been driving recently. So or I could walk, but hurt my ankle and things. So
yeah.
I don't want to wait.
Oh, I'm so glad we have these Zoom classes for you then.
Oh, yes. Oh, they're so inspiring and enlightening and a real joy.
Good. Yes, you can, you know, you could call the front desk, order it, and then it's usually, do you know our hula teacher, Doris?
Yes.
She's usually the one that puts them in the mail to people. So that'll work great.
Called to sign up, and she was the right person to answer the phone. She talked to me so much about hula and no rules, and you know, it's really easy and all that stuff. But what was I going to tell you? Oh, Adela. When I told my sister about Stella Moving Center, she said, and the hula, she said, our cousin Stella, that's her kumu. I said, oh my goodness, you know, because Stella is our first cousin, same age as me and all that. She and her family take hula.
Oh, and I know Stella. Stella goes way back with Malia. Yeah, Stella from Kailua.
Yes.
I think Malia practiced in her garage.
Yes, on their porch even. One day I happened to be there and Stella told me, why don't you stay? Because she knows I was interested in hula. I said, oh, I better go home. so came back to town. But so my sister Linda said, that's Stella's kumu. I said, oh my goodness. So I called Stella and we talked for a long time about it.
Oh, nice. Oh, how fun.
But anyway, when I talked to my sister, she was asking me about Bob Buss. Is that Adela's husband? And she said, yes. I said, okay, because he's on these GEMS talks. And then she told me that Adela had told my sister Linda to tell me about Stella Moving Center years ago, because it had hula, it has this flow yoga and things like that. But my sister Linda said, I had so much going on at the time. She didn't tell me about it, So I went the body and brain route. That was another healing route. But anyway, I'm so glad.
I'm so glad you've ended up here. Wonderful.
Yes, and I guess it's the right time, right size, right time.
Yeah, I'm sure there was no accident. This was the right time for you to come for whichever reason.
Okay, thank you, Renee, for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Aloha.